So when it comes to truest self, it depends on the source that you're looking at, or where you're getting it from in regards to a definition, but most of them are really similar. Truest self is who I align with, who I am, what I choose, my power. It's not the things that I'm following or that was put on me. It's not necessarily all the ways of my family culture and how I was raised, although some of them might be. Um, Truest self really speaks to I'm able to show up in authenticity, in my power, and I can speak my truth. Now, that sounds fucking amazing. And sometimes I like to say, yes, that's me. And I wouldn't be 100% there because I am also a recovering codependent. What does that mean? That means when I'm with my besties, my group of girls, and they're like, oh, let's go here to eat. And I'm like, okay. Truest, most authentic, highest self not showing up in that moment. Frankly, it's more because I don't really care, less about speaking my truth. But I'm just throwing that out as an example because you guys know I say this a lot. I make shit sound way easier than it is because I've been doing this for a long time. And in my own human experience, I'm the first one to own, yeah, I can't say that 100% of the time I speak my truth. I would love to say that I do. And I don't because I'm still recovering. So speaking my truth, it's not always that I'm holding it back either. Sometimes it's that I haven't done that part of my work yet, and I just don't know. So when we're talking about truest self, and we're going to include the topic that Marlene's asking about, I'm going to speak about it a little bit more generally, but you guys apply it to any current relevant issues that are happening. I just try to, I don't watch TV for very important reasons. So when we're talking about, hey, what's the difference in being empathetic and having empathy for people and being codependent? Because although there's similarities with those could really be a Venn diagram. You know, those like two circles that overlap that have all these commonalities in the middle. My hope is that with talking about truest self, you guys will discern a little bit of like your definition for what these two things are. But I'm just going to talk about them generally, and then you apply to whatever topics are triggering you. When we are experiencing, whether through social media or television, the news, witnessing something that causes my body to react, sometimes it is because I'm an empath and I experience my world through feelings. That's different than when I am in an experience and I feel the feelings of the person that is being hurt. Sometimes those are, I'm trying to think of words. What's that word? This isn't the right word, but it's the best I can do. Sometimes those are transplanted. Those are perceived versus actual. That's important to trauma definition. But when I'm experiencing something, what causes a trigger or a visceral reaction in my body is it's touching something from my backstory. It's called a trauma trigger. And it doesn't mean that I have to necessarily have experienced that same experience. It does mean there's a overlap. Here's the Venn diagram again. There's an overlap with the theme of what I'm witnessing and what's a part of my story. So for example, the person that was supposed to love and protect me is also the person that hurt me. Intentionally or unintentionally, right? This is not about blame and fault. This is about fact. Never being enough. For some of us, me, good ways into recovery before I've experienced it. I've never experienced what safety and security feels like in our body. Like, we're way into adulthood before we have that experience for some of us. Um, I do I have any men on the screen? No. I'm objectified. I have a purpose. I'm a woman. Men are supposed to look at me this way, treat me this way. Yeah, like all of those things. So any of those core wounds thematically show up in both stories. That's why sometimes we have this visceral reaction to something we're watching, whether it's on social media or TV or a book, or we're out in public and maybe a baby screams or something. Regardless of where it is, we're experiencing it in our body. The reason that I'm offering the overlap of codependency is because I find my identity through others. And in that dynamic, I take on things that aren't mine. And if I'm in a relapse, or if I'm in what I call active codependency, that can be any kind of feelings. That can be disappointment, that can be excitement, that can be shame, I can take on anything from anyone else. And the way that I know I'm in my codependency, active or relapse, is because it feels bigger than me. Those of us that have experienced trauma triggers, that also feels bigger than me, right? Like, it feels like that trauma trigger, because it is, my prefrontal cortex is off, my amygdala's driving the bus, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, right? And I don't feel like I have any control or power over what's happening. I feel like my body's ruling things and not my brain. So when we think about empathy versus codependency, and in codependency, when I take on those feelings, it's almost like I'm a sponge and I absorb them. In my narrative, they start to become mine. And it's in our guidelines, and we talk about this a lot, but one of the ways that I use my recovery for a state of awareness to know where I am in my codependency is through semantics. It's how I talk. If I'm saying a lot of yous and a lot of we's, I'm pretty active. When I start talking about I and how something is impacting me, I am embodied and I'm right here. When I'm in my codependency, I'm very dissociated and I'm very enmeshed with who or whatever is outside of me. And so my semantics will tell me exactly where I am. If I'm with, and all of a sudden I'm telling all about how she needs to feel, well, hello, codependency. So I want to discern the difference in these two, because not all empaths necessarily suffer from codependency. Don't ask me for a stat on that, because yeah, it won't be good. People will say I'm lying. And not all empaths necessarily suffer from codependency. However, all codependents are empaths. That's an energetic thing. It's okay if you're not aligned with that, or if you use different words for that. It's okay. In the psychology world, in the energetic world, codependency looks like the opposite of cellular mitosis. So when cells are going through a state of division and they're coming apart, yeah, codependency is the opposite, and they two become one. So whether you look at it from a science perspective, from a spiritual, energetic perspective, whatever your lens is, it's totally fine. However, when I'm absorbing something and I'm taking something on, I'm going to have somatic responses. My body's going to start reacting. And so in the trauma world, we have part of our definition, which is, was the trauma or the event actual, meaning it happened to me, or was it perceived, meaning I witnessed it? You know, the really scary thing about our brain, it doesn't know the difference. That's what's so scary about our nervous system, is much like my body can't understand the difference between physical pain and emotional pain. It doesn't know whether something is perceived and happened to someone else or it actually happened to me. And so in our recovery at the HC, that's why we spend so much time, number one, on guidelines, number two, on embodiment. Because if we're raised in a codependent home, then codependency is all we know. We only know how to attach to others. We don't know how to be connected, which are two totally different topics. So looking at empathy versus looking at codependency, I will very transparently own that's why I don't watch TV, because my body reacts as if it's something happening. And then I got to go regulate and I'm just off the chain. I can't even watch CSI anymore. But I know yeah, I know. Bluey is about the most I can do, which is on Disney Plus. But when we talk about empathy and codependency, the difference in those two is empathy. I recognize that it's something outside of me, and I recognize that I have a feeling for those people. They are not my feelings. Versus codependency is I absorb them, and my feelings are bigger than me. So I hope that helps, and I hope it's like speaks into a little bit. I feel like I could do like 3 more meetings just on this topic. But what you look at in the overlap is thematically what shows up, and being able to recognize, no wonder it's triggering my body, because it's part of my backstory thematically through my core wounds. And then as it applies to true self, it is me being able to recognize, no wonder my body reacts to that. It's a part of my story. And it is not happening to me right now, which means I'm able to regulate. So I hope this was helpful.